It was the marriage that seemed bulletproof. Or at least, that's what Bronwyn Newport wanted the world to believe. From the moment she stepped onto the screen in The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, she wasn't just a cast member. She was a force of nature. Clad in avant-garde couture and armed with a razor-sharp wit, she spent her debut season fiercely defending her relationship with tech titan Todd Bradley. But in a twist that has sent shockwaves through the Bravo universe, the facade has finally cracked. In December 2025, the news everyone feared but few expected finally broke. Bronwyn's representative confirmed to People that after 9 years of high-fashion highs and controversial lows, the couple is officially separating. The statement called it a mutual decision made with care and respect. But for fans who have watched Bronwyn fight tooth and nail for her husband's reputation, this feels like the end of an era. The separation marks a stunning reversal for a woman who once claimed their relationship was much stronger because of the hurdles they had overcome. For years, the 26-year age gap between the two was the subject of whispers and side-eyes, yet Bronwyn leaned into it, laughing off the critics while displaying the spoils of her ultra-wealthy lifestyle. Now the diamonds and the designer gowns tell a different, much lonelier story. Before we dive into the secret messages, the 5-diamond apology, and the kiss of death that Bronwyn tried so hard to avoid, we have to look at the timeline of this collapse. How did a couple that survived emotional affairs and public scrutiny finally reach the breaking point? If you're shocked by this split and want to stay updated on all the breaking news from Salt Lake City and beyond, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel right now. We're just getting started on the details you haven't heard yet. To truly understand why this divorce is rocking the foundations of RHOSLC, you have to go back to how it all began. Their love story didn't start at a star-studded gala or through a high-end matchmaker. It started in the most relatable way possible, a solo lunch in San Francisco. Bronwyn was working in finance at the time, a high-stakes world where she was already making a name for herself. Todd, a veteran of the global technology sector with a career dating back to 1980, was sitting nearby. According to Bronwyn, Todd was hysterically funny. That initial spark led to an exchange of emails, which quickly blossomed into a whirlwind romance. On paper, they were an unlikely match. Todd was a corporate heavyweight, a man who had climbed the ladder at FedEx and Mozixo before landing a prestigious board position at the cyber protection firm Commvault. He was a man of logic, business deals, and tax advantages. Bronwyn, meanwhile, was a firecracker. A woman who lived for aesthetic expression and bold statements. Their 2016 wedding was the perfect metaphor for their blending of worlds. They didn't just have one ceremony, they had two, each reflecting their wildly different personalities. Todd's celebration was a sports fan's dream, held at Oracle Park where the San Francisco Giants play. It was casual, featuring denim jeans, hot dogs, and performances by the Goo Goo Dolls. It was Todd's world, unpretentious and grounded. The very next day, the world shifted to Bronwyn's frequency. A formal City Hall wedding followed by a sit-down dinner where the Dancing with the Stars band played. In a move that foreshadowed her legendary run on reality TV, Bronwyn wore 5 different outfits throughout the day, including 4 designer dresses and a power pantsuit. At the time, it seemed like the perfect balance. He gave her the stage to shine, and she gave him a sense of humor and vitality. But as the cameras started rolling for Season 5 of RHOSLC, the cracks in that polished surface began to show. One of the most uncomfortable revelations of the season wasn't a rumor from a rival housewife. It came from within the home. Bronwyn revealed that her daughter, Gwen, had discovered secret messages on Todd's iPad. It wasn't a physical affair, but an emotional one, a betrayal of trust that happened right under Bronwyn's nose. The details were tense. Gwen had seen the messages over Todd's shoulder while they were on a trip. When Bronwyn confronted him, she didn't just see a cheating husband. She saw a man whose fatal flaw was his inability to stop hunting for the next best thing. She explained to her co-stars that the same drive that made Todd a success in the boardroom, the constant need for the next deal, was the same drive that made him look elsewhere for validation. In a move that many fans found controversial, Bronwyn defended him. She told the New York Post in early 2025 that Todd had been vulnerable and had taken full responsibility. She even went as far as to say that their relationship was much stronger because he was willing to admit he was wrong. To seal the deal on his apology, Todd didn't just say sorry. He bought his way back into her good graces with a 5-diamond ring. Each diamond on that ring represented a new promise, vows he hadn't made when they first wed in 2016. Bronwyn kept the specific details of those vows vague, but the message was clear. She was willing to stay as long as the effort and the jewelry was there. She famously stated on Watch What Happens Live that it wasn't a big affair and that nothing physical happened. She was simply uncomfortable with how flirty the other woman had been. However, the shadow of the Housewives curse was always looming. Bronwyn was hyper-aware of the history of reality TV marriages. She told people that she would never, under any circumstances, renew her vows on television. She called it the kiss of death for a marriage. She thought that by avoiding the cliché of a televised ceremony, she could protect her union from the cameras. But as we now know, the curse doesn't need a ceremony to take hold. The age difference was another point of contention that Bronwyn often had to navigate. With 26 years between them, the dynamics were unique. Todd had 2 grown sons from a previous marriage, one of whom is actually 6 months older than Bronwyn herself. On the show, she admitted that Todd didn't love it when she shared that fact because it highlighted the gap they tried so hard to ignore. "When we were first getting to know each other, I never felt this huge discrepancy," she once told the cameras. But as the years went on and the pressures of public life mounted, those differences likely became harder to bridge. While Bronwyn was in the prime of her public life, becoming a household name and a fashion icon, Todd remained a figure of the corporate past, more comfortable in a boardroom or at a baseball game than in the middle of a reality TV feud. The separation in December 2025 comes just months after Bronwyn was praising Todd's vulnerability. It raises the question, what changed? Did the emotional infidelity resurface, or did the pressure of the show finally tear them apart? The rep's statement about it being a mutual decision is the standard Hollywood protocol, but in Salt Lake City, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. As Gwen, Bronwyn's daughter, continues to grow up, and Todd's adult sons remain largely out of the spotlight, the fallout of this split will likely be a major storyline in the upcoming seasons of RHOSLC. Bronwyn has always been a woman who values her autonomy and her expensive tastes, but she also valued the stability Todd provided. Without the successful husband she so often bragged about, who is Bronwyn Newport? The tech mogul and the fashionista seemed like a match made in tax advantage heaven, but the reality was clearly more complicated. Between the move to Salt Lake City for financial reasons and the 5-diamond pact that was supposed to save them, the couple spent a lot of energy trying to engineer a perfect life. But in the world of the Real Housewives, the truth always has a way of coming out, usually in the most dramatic way possible. Is this truly a clean break? Or is there more to the story of the flirty woman and the iPad messages? Fans are already scouring social media for clues, looking for any sign of tension that might have been missed during the reunion. One thing is for certain, Bronwyn Newport is not a woman who stays down for long. Whether she's wearing 5 outfits or just one, she's going to make sure the world is watching her next move. The separation marks the end of a 9-year journey that took them from the quiet solo lunches of San Francisco to the screaming matches of Salt Lake City. It was a journey defined by wealth, age gap debates, and a desperate attempt to prove that they were the exception to the rule. In the end, they were just another couple caught in the crosshairs of reality TV fame. As we look forward to the next chapter, we have to wonder how Todd Bradley will handle this transition. For a man who spent decades in the high-stakes world of global technology and cyber protection, a public divorce is a different kind of threat. He's used to protecting data and securing platforms, but protecting a reputation in the court of public opinion is a much harder task. For Bronwyn, the road ahead is paved with designer labels and a new sense of freedom. She has already proven she can hold her own against the heaviest hitters in the franchise. Now she'll have to do it as a single woman, navigating the complex social circles of Utah without the man she defended so fiercely. The vulnerability she once praised in Todd will now have to come from within herself as she navigates this very public heartbreak. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this developing story. There are rumors of a new season filming as we speak, and you can bet the cameras were there to catch the immediate aftermath of this December bombshell. From the 5-diamond ring to the final paperwork, the saga of Bronwyn and Todd is far from over. It's just entering a new, even more unpredictable phase. When we look back at the Season 5 reunion, the tension was palpable. Bronwyn sat there, a vision in high fashion, defending her husband's emotional affair as a byproduct of his business success. It was a bizarre defense, essentially saying he was too good at his job to be a perfectly faithful husband. The audience was divided. Some saw it as a woman in denial, while others saw it as a sophisticated understanding of a complex man. But the mutual respect mentioned in their 2025 separation statement suggests that perhaps the vulnerability Bronwyn spoke about in February wasn't enough to heal the deeper wounds. An emotional affair is often harder to move past than a physical one because it involves a connection of the mind and heart. For Bronwyn, a woman who prides herself on her intellect and her quick wit, knowing her husband was seeking that connection elsewhere must have been a crushing blow. Then there's the matter of the children. While they didn't have children together, their blended family was a central part of their lives. Gwen, who was the one to actually catch Todd in the act, has been through the ringer. It's one thing for a wife to find out about a betrayal. It's another for a child to be the whistleblower. The impact on their family dynamic cannot be understated. Todd's grown sons, who remained off camera, also represent a bridge to a past that Bronwyn was only partially a part of. With one stepson being older than her, the family holidays must have been a fascinating study in social dynamics. Now, those bridges are being dismantled. The tax advantages of Salt Lake City might still be there, but the reason for staying in the Beehive State as a united front has vanished. The timeline of their split is also worth noting. December is a time for family and reflection, yet it was the moment they chose to announce their end. It suggests that the fall of 2025 was a period of intense realization. Perhaps the glow of the 5-diamond promises had faded, and the reality of their 26-year age difference and different life stages finally became undeniable. Bronwyn once said that Todd doesn't love her sharing the age gap details. This subtle hint of control or discomfort from Todd's side might have been a sign of a much larger ego clash. Bronwyn is a woman who takes up space. She is loud, she is colorful, and she is unapologetic. For a corporate board member used to being the most important person in the room, sharing that space with a reality TV star might have been more than he bargained for. As the news continues to circulate, the fashion world and the Bravo world are colliding in the comments sections. Some are praising Bronwyn for finally opening her eyes, while others are mourning the end of one of the show's most visually interesting couples. But if there's one thing Bronwyn Newport knows how to do, it's pivot. She navigated the finance world, she navigated the tech wife world, and now she's navigating the divorced housewife world. We have to wonder if the jewelry stayed. That 5-diamond ring was a symbol of a promise that, as of December 2025, appears to have been broken. In the world of Salt Lake City, jewelry often becomes a plot point. Just ask Jen Shah or Heather Gay. Will the ring be a source of contention in the divorce settlement, or will Bronwyn keep it as a trophy of a battle she fought and eventually chose to leave? The denim and hot dogs wedding versus the 5 outfits and City Hall wedding now feels like a metaphor for their entire marriage. They were two people trying to live in two different worlds simultaneously. For 9 years, they managed to keep the planes from crashing, but eventually, the fuel ran out. The Goo Goo Dolls and Natasha Bedingfield might have provided the soundtrack for their beginning, but the end is playing out to a much more somber tune. As we wait for Bronwyn's first social media post post-separation, the anticipation is building. Will she post a defiant photo in a new designer look, or will she take the privacy request seriously? Knowing Bronwyn, her silence will speak just as loudly as her words. She has always been the master of her own narrative, and this chapter, though painful, is no different. The impact on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City will be massive. The show thrives on the shifting sands of its cast members' personal lives. Bronwyn was the new money fashionista with the older, stable husband. Now she is a wild card. The shift in power dynamics within the group will be fascinating to watch, especially as she no longer has to defend Todd's honor at every dinner party. Is there a chance for a reconciliation? The rep used the word separated, which often leaves a tiny window open, but the tone of the announcement feels final. 9 years is a long time in the world of reality TV, and for many, they lasted longer than anyone expected. They defied the odds of the age gap for nearly a decade, but in the end, the fatal flaws Bronwyn spoke about were too much to overcome. We'll be keeping a close eye on the court filings and the tax advantages that brought them to Utah. Will Todd stay in Salt Lake City, or will he head back to the tech hubs of San Francisco? And more importantly, will Bronwyn keep her seat on the throne of SLC fashion, or will she seek a new start in a new city? The story of Bronwyn Newport and Todd Bradley is a cautionary tale about the pressures of public life and the fragility of perfect marriages. It's a reminder that no matter how many diamonds you have or how many outfits you change into, you can't always change the heart of the person you're with. As the news settles into the consciousness of Bravo fans, we start to look at the finer details of their 9-year run. One thing that always stood out was Bronwyn's insistence that she never felt the age gap. "It doesn't cross my mind," she famously said. But psychologists and relationship experts often point out that while an age gap might not matter in the honeymoon phase, it becomes a major factor as one partner enters a different stage of life. Todd, nearing his mid-60s, and Bronwyn, in her late 30s, early 40s, were looking at two very different horizons. Todd's career was in its legacy phase, board positions, part-time roles, and enjoying the wealth he had built since 1980. Bronwyn, however, was just reaching a new peak of fame. Her career was accelerating in a way that required constant attention, travel, and public appearances. And then there's the iPad incident again. We have to consider how much that event changed the power dynamic. Before the affair was revealed, Bronwyn looked up to Todd as a mentor and a provider, the very successful man who brought her to Salt Lake for tax reasons. But after Gwen saw those messages, the pedestal was gone. Bronwyn became the one granting him forgiveness. She became the one who had the moral high ground. That shift can be poisonous to a marriage. If Todd felt he was constantly being reminded of his mistake through the 5-diamond ring or the public defense Bronwyn had to mount, he might have grown resentful. Conversely, Bronwyn might have grown tired of being the defender. It's exhausting to play the role of the perfect, forgiving wife when the world is constantly questioning your choices. The move to Salt Lake City was also a business decision, first and foremost. When a marriage is built on tax advantages and business-like efficiency, it can sometimes lack the emotional depth needed to survive a crisis. Bronwyn herself described Todd's business drive as his fatal flaw. If he treated his marriage like a transaction, something to be optimized or dealt with, it's no wonder the emotional connection suffered. We also have to think about the DWTS band and the Goo Goo Dolls. Their wedding was a spectacle of high-end entertainment. Looking back, was it a celebration of love or a celebration of status? Bronwyn's 5 outfits weren't just about fashion, they were about control. She controlled every frame of her wedding day. But reality TV is the one place where you can't control the edit, and you can't control how the audience perceives you're perfect. The separation announcement in late 2025 is particularly poignant because it comes after the tension of the Season 5 reunion. Usually, reunions are where marriages go to die. The cast members are forced to watch back their worst moments and defend them in front of a live audience and a relentless host. For Bronwyn, having to explain the emotional affair again while looking at her daughter's face in her mind might have been the final straw. There's also the question of the other woman. While Bronwyn downplayed it as someone who was just very flirty, the fact remains that Todd engaged. In the digital age, emotional cheating is easier than ever, but it's also harder to hide. A stray iPad, a synced message, or a notification at the wrong time. These are the modern-day lipstick on the collar. As Bronwyn moves forward, she's likely to become a fan favorite for her resilience. There is something relatable about a woman who tries so hard to save something, only to realize that it's okay to let it go. Her fashionista persona might have seemed cold to some, but this split humanizes her in a way that 1,000 designer bags never could. What happens to the house in Salt Lake? What happens to the tax advantages? These are the practical questions that will be hammered out in the coming months. But the emotional questions are the ones that will keep us watching. How does a woman who built her identity on being a power couple reinvent herself as a power individual? The separation of Bronwyn Newport and Todd Bradley isn't just a celebrity breakup. It's a narrative arc that has been building since the first episode of Season 5. It's a story about the cost of success, the price of forgiveness, and the reality that sometimes 5 diamonds aren't enough to fix a broken promise.